I want to welcome you to Now on Sunday Morning with Reverend Dr. Damian Calmet. I'm new to the Now Network. This next year, 2021, I'll be doing 8 special television programs for the network, and this is going to be my first one. Of course, this is my second one because we're retaping this because there are some technical difficulties yesterday. But before we go into the talk I have today, let us just take a deep breath for a moment. Let us center ourselves. If there's any anxiety, just let it go. In this moment in time, let us see a little ball of white light, the Holy Spirit that is coming down through us, through all the different 7 major chakras. Let us have the white light that is cleansing us. God of many names, today we pray for the people that are affected by the COVID-19, for those that are ill, for the families that are affected. We ask, God of mercy, that you would touch them right now as we agree together and we say amen. So I've got my New Year's Eve glitter on today because this is my New Year's Eve special that I'm doing for you. Before I get into the talk, you who are on the East Coast, who are watching this, and in the western part of Europe and parts of Africa, you can also get me on Facebook and follow what I do there, on Instagram, the different talks and different writings that I do. I'm not so up on technology, so part of what we're doing is me having to adjust a lot of things because I mess up quite a bit. So we're gonna go with what we have today, and hopefully when it gets to the people who are doing the editing, they can put it all together and it'll look nice for you. Okay, so. Today, my talk is Take Back Your Power in 2021. Boy, 2021 has been an experience for us, but has it been a growing experience? Have we gone through it, or have we grown through it? You know, the choice is always ours. Every experience is a lesson. Good experiences and what we view as bad experience, all of it is experience that we give the value to, but it's all for our personal growth. It's all to empower us to be the child of God that we are, to be the loving light that we are, to be able to be actually God on this earth to people. Do you know, I often say in my writings, in my talks, that we are not to seek love, but we are to seek to get rid of the barriers and the blocks that keep us from knowing love for ourselves, love for others. And as we do this, then that love flows to us and through us and in us and with us. But so often I hear people say, you know, if only my relationship could work, then I would be so happy. If it's the only thing that's really missing in my life. If only I had that dream job, you know, and I got that raise, it would be amazing. If only I made more money, everything would be so different. Any of these sound familiar to you? Maybe you've said them yourself. Do you know, the writer Bryant McGill said, once you connect yourself, once you connect with yourself, it is impossible to be lonely or desperate. Now, we've all been in situations where we put our happiness and our power in other people's hands, or in the control of something outside of ourselves. I know my marriage to my wife, that was an arranged marriage. That was somebody else using me. They saw me on TV. They decided I was going to be Kathy's husband, and away they go. They brought her to the church that I was one of the pastors at the time, and a week later we were planning the wedding. And at the same time, the pastoral staff of the church that I was at, they called me in, the wives did, and they said, we really need you to start going out with girls. And I wasn't going out with anybody. My whole focus was ministry to people. And they said, because people think you're gay. And I said, well, I am. And I said, every Sunday we sing, I've got good reason to be happy and gay. The Lord took all my sins away. They said, we not talking about that kind of gay. We're talking about gay. And I was really so naive. I wasn't really sure what they were talking about, but I knew it had to be something bad. Okay, you know. So the only way for me to be happy in my life, most of my life, was to do what other people asked me to do, and be what other people wanted me to do. You know, I'll be good. If I don't do such and such, then God's not even gonna love me. You know, and so when I was in these situations, and I thought, well, by doing this, it is an unlimited source of happiness for me. It's what I have to do to be successful. It's what I have to do to live on this earth. But every time I felt this, I was giving away my internal power to follow the external factors. Sometimes, in my case, it was a man. Sometimes it was work. Sometimes even it was success. Subconsciously, I didn't understand what I was doing. I didn't understand that it was the worst thing that I could be doing. And at the end of my day, my happiness always depending on the external circumstances that someone else had planned for me. But one day my life fell apart. It's fallen apart a couple times. And when I decided to know myself and to make connection with my inner self and understand that there is an inner self, and realize that I am the only person who has the power, and that power comes only from the inside, then my life began to change. I have a brand new saying that I have these little sayings that I put out every day. And this one is, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. If I only do this, I'll be happy. Do that, no, happiness is the way. Every time we seek social validation or acceptance, we're handing our power over to others. You know, for me, at times it was sex addiction, it was drug addiction, it was pleases, it was shopping. We give more importance to the people that are controlling us than our own intuition and our own belief. Every time this happens, we lose our sense of power and we lose our sense of connection. I know everybody's looking for validation. I know what it feels like not to be wanted. I know what it feels like to try to fit in. But I also was thinking just yesterday that, you know, I've survived being HIV for 36 years. I've had rough life situations. I've been homeless. I've had money, and I've had money stolen from me and been on the street. I've had some horrible relationships. As you will hear me talk through the next year, I'll talk about my childhood a little bit just to help you, but I've had some traumatic childhood experiences. But instead of being a victim, I found the power in the events that have happened and become stronger. So instead of focusing on why something isn't how you think it should be, what if, just what if, you changed your perception? And if you still feel that it's not the way that it should be, then change the situation. Some of you in this last year have really had to come to grips with yourself and realize that you didn't want to have the career you had, and now you're going to be changing the situation. Some of you realize the marriage you were in is needing to change, and you change the situation. Sometimes I talk to people in relationships, and somehow we have this idea that you get together with somebody and the relationship's going to be forever. No. Some do. I have some good friends that have been in relationships for 40, 50 years. But relationships last and work until they don't anymore. And when they don't, and you stay in them too long, and you make demands on them, somebody's going to get hurt. And that's going to be you that gets hurt. When we put our demands on our loving, somebody is going to get hurt, and it's usually going to be us that gets hurt. So I want to give you a few pointers today as we go into 2021 about taking your power back, your personal power. It doesn't mean that you're arrogant, and doesn't mean that you're selfish. It means that you're getting an honest look at who you are. You know, it is these experiences in life that make us who we are. And the great sculptor Michelangelo was asked one time, they said, how did you get this big, beautiful statue of David out of that block of marble? And Michelangelo said, David was in there all the time. I just carved away the excess. Last week I watched a special on churches that were in Africa, and they were carved out of blocks of stone. Not stone put on top of each other, but blocks of stone. Beautiful architecture. But it was chipped away and chipped away. And in our lives, the events that happens in our life is chipping away the excess, chipping away what doesn't need to be there, chipping away so that when Jesus came along and he says, you are the light of the world. Yes, you that I'm talking to, you are the light of the world. So as we chip away the excess, the things that hold us down, the things that we feel powerless about, then that light begins to shine forth from us. We begin to walk in it. We begin to talk in it. We begin to live in it. And it becomes a way of life to us. We don't put on spirituality like a coat. We realize that we are spiritual beings having a human experience at this time. But how does this happen that we start molding ourselves into this and allowing ourselves to be molded? Number one, begin to make choices for yourself. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now empowering me? Does it help me to grow? Does it add value to myself and to my life? Is the person that I'm with helping me to grow? Do they add value to me? Do I feel happy? Do I feel free? Are they putting me down? Are they criticizing me all the time? Or are they lifting me up and helping me to be the best person that I can be? Are they causing anxiety? Are they causing stress? Look at the choices that you're making for yourself. Remember this, if it's not empowering you, it's not serving you. Can I say that again? If it's not empowering you, the relationship, the job, whatever it is, if it's not empowering you, then it's not serving you. And once we begin to understand this, we're on our way, and that's our compass to going into the light because we understand that it has to empower us, or else it doesn't need to be in our life. So the second point is that we connect with ourselves. We return home. You know, I used to say in some of my relationships, I've lost myself in this relationship. I allowed people not to value me. I allowed people to lie to me. I allowed, well, I was in a part-time marriage with a husband. And I say part-time because the husband was never there. He was so busy with his friends that he couldn't be bothered to be home and be home and do the things. You know, so I had to take a look at all of this, of how people in my life were treating me. And the real truth is, we teach people to treat us the way that they do. And once we come into a realization that it's not going to be anymore, then we make choices. And sometimes that choice is to leave that relationships. We have to be clear on it when we're starting to connect to ourselves. But you have to know what you want. You have to be able to make a clear decision that's not fueled by an external source or your ego, but a realistic. And the third is, we've got to look at our fears. We've got to identify our fears and leave our fears behind. Never allow your fear to grow larger than your faith. Did you all know that fear is the greatest motivator in the world? Even a bigger motivator than love? Fear is the greatest motivator in the world. We've got to leave those fears behind. One of my teachers, Marianne Williamson, said this and wrote a poem. She also wrote a book called Return to Love and several other books. She's a great teacher. I love reading her stuff. I love listening to her talks and her lectures. She said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Understand what I'm saying? As we shine, other people's lives begin to shine. You know, we just finished the Hanukkah season where the servant candle lit the rest of the candles, and the miracle was that there was oil enough for all of them, and there was only supposed to be oil for one day. And now we're in the season of the Kwanzaa, where it's about lighting various candles. The unity candle, the candle of, I think yesterday's was self-determination, so that everything is about being lit. One of my other teachers, Shaman Dirk, who I listen to and who I read, he always says, get lit. Don't wait for somebody else to light you. You get lit so that you will shine. The fourth one is to increase your awareness and develop an inner code of conduct that is based on our connection with Spirit, on our connection with Source, on our connection with God. You know, every day I begin my day with gratitude, and each day I end my day with gratitude. I was talking with somebody on the phone this morning in a different state. And we were talking about this, and I said, do you realize that I pray 5 times a day? There's certain hours that I pray on, and it's just a short prayer. But I put my feet out in the morning of the bed when I open my eyes and I say, create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O God. And then as I go through the day, I will stop and I will get quiet for a moment. I will say it again. And sometimes Spirit says to my mind, oh, you know the clerk that you were just snarky to about an hour ago? You were really showing up in love, weren't you? And I'm able to say, oh, thank you for the awareness, so that I can step back into the knowledge, the wisdom, the light that cleanses, the light that shines. 5, take responsibility for your life. Every single moment, you have the opportunity and the power to change any situation. Don't make excuses. Don't deny your mistakes or errors. Take responsibility for those. When you accept responsibility for it, then you empower yourself. Don't make excuses because you've become an addict on drugs. That was then. This is now. Take responsibility. Well, you know, my mother was an alcoholic, and you know, if somebody hadn't given me this drug, I would have been, and you know, if that girl or that boy hadn't left me, you know, that's nonsense. That's doing the blame shame game. Take responsibility and let it empower you. You know, we understand quantum physics, and those of you who may understand electricity a little more, you understand that there are various frequencies, like a cell phone frequency, and like the cell phone towers, and like the electrical currents that come into our house, but there are various frequencies. And here on this earth plane, we see a 3-dimensional frequency. But when we connect with Spirit, and we connect with that Spirit that's within us, and our code of conduct becomes based on that connection, then Spirit lifts us to another dimension, to another frequency. And where we look from that frequency, we look and we see a message. Where when we were just on this plane, we saw a mess that was filled with guilt, shame, blame, disrespect, selfishness. But when we give it to the Holy Spirit and look from this area, we're able to see, wow, that mess has become a message. A message without the mess. 6 is next year. Establish healthy boundaries. You know what I'm talking about. There's no need to give guilt trips. If you have to give a guilt trip in your relationship or to somebody, quite honestly, you probably need to be thinking about possibly leaving that relationship because it's not empowering you. And sometimes we refuse to speak up for ourselves. I've done that before. And that gives power to other people. But rather than blame them for wasting your time or forcing you to do something, recognize that you're in charge of your life. Establish a healthy and emotional boundary. Do you know, one of the reasons that I left relationships I was in was because I lost my boundaries and I hadn't set boundaries. Do you know, when somebody says, oh, I'm going to be there at 2:30, and they don't show up to almost 5 o'clock. Or when you're with somebody and you have a guest at your house and you're going to dinner and they don't even show up for the dinner, or they show up late, or It's what it's saying to you is you don't matter. And pretty soon that emotional hurt, that emotional health starts to deteriorate, and they don't even have to tell you don't matter anymore, because you begin to play that tape yourself, and your self-esteem becomes none, and pretty soon you've lost yourself. And you think, how could I have lost myself in this relationship? How did that happen? Set healthy boundaries. Now, when I'm with people, they can be selfish. They can be self-centered. They can be arrogant. They can be disrespectful. But you know, if they say that they're going to be somewhere at a certain time and they're not, I don't wait around. I cut it. Because I'm more valuable than to be walked on, than to be taken for granted. 7, practice forgiveness. Yeah, these people that have walked on us, these people that we're holding grudges against, holding a grudge against someone who has hurt you doesn't punish the other person. It only punishes you. When you waste valuable time thinking about the person who wronged you, you take away your ability to enjoy the moment. So what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is letting it go. It doesn't mean you have to be besties with that person. It doesn't mean you have to go to dinner with them. It doesn't mean you have to see them next year. You forgive so that that venom isn't in you anymore. Bless them, let them go. And once you have blessed them and let them go, don't try to get them back. Let it go. I bless you and I forgive you. End of it. The relationship doesn't have to be what it was before. I've had to do that with a couple people in my life. It was painful, but it was also painful hanging on to the venom that I had. Number 8. Let me be clear on this. Forgiveness isn't saying that what the other person did was okay. It's about choosing to let go of the hurt and the anger that interferes with your ability to enjoy life. And number 5 in this journey of taking your power back, this journey of building who you are in 2021, avoid language that implies that you're a victim. Oh, you know, he did such and such, and I felt such and such, and if only, you know, such and such hadn't happened, and, you know, oh, poor me, I think I'm going to eat worms and just die. No, no, no. Avoid those negative things. You don't need to be talking negative. And when you find yourself talking negative, just stop and go, delete. When you find yourself thinking a negative thought, go, delete. It's like being on the computer. Delete. Because when we perpetuate those negative thoughts, those negative speaking, then it's like a snowball. They just keep rolling over and over and over and over and over until we become this negative person, this person that knows no joy, no happiness. Never allow any one person's opinion to determine your self-worth. I could talk all day on that one. I've allowed that to happen in my life. Not anymore. Never allow any one person's opinion to determine your self-worth. In 2021, remember, this life is yours. Take the power to choose what you want to do with it, and do it well. Take the power to love who you want to love, and love them with all of your life and all of your honesty. Take the power to control your own life and your own happiness. Never again say, oh, he makes me happy. That's giving your power to somebody else. As RuPaul says, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else when you don't love yourself? Good point there. As I close all of my talks with this, remember, kindness is the language that the deaf can hear. Kindness is the language the blind can see. Kindness is what you need to be to yourself and to others. Until you see me again, either on the Now Network television show, or whether you see me on a video from the YouTube. It's Damien Calmette. Blessings to you. We're going to have a great 2021. Great new learning experiences. Great things that chip away the excess of what we don't need in our life so that we can shine brightly. So what I want to say to you, like Shaman Dirk says to us, get lit.